Just let me get back up to the agenda. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Sorry for the slight delay. Call the meeting to order. The first order of business, number 2, is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof from anyone on the committee? Seeing none, can be declared if it does arise at any time. This is okay, I didn't know that she had left back there. Ashley, Ms. Noble, can you give anybody that's attending virtually instructions?
Thank you. And through you, Mayor Eccles, before I begin, at any point, if you get disconnected, you can dial 1-647-558-0588 and enter the ID for this meeting, which is 891-5626-2480. For members of the public, if you require any technical assistance, please send a chat message to West Grey Communications and I will attempt to assist you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ashley. We're dealing with zoning amendment ZA 12 2025 522522 Wellback Road. I have a few announcements to make. I'd like to remind everyone that the purpose of this public meeting is to receive input from the public. Every person who attends a statutory public meeting required under the Planning Act shall be given the opportunity to make representation in respect to the proposed bylaw. All submission materials for this application are available at the West Grey Municipal Office during regular business hours. This meeting is an essential part of the decision-making process. Feedback received will be considered in the decision of West Grey Council. An explanation of how the public and agency comments factored into the decision will be included in the notice of passing of the bylaw. Where changes made in the proposed bylaw after the holding of a public meeting, Council will determine if any further notice will be given respecting the proposed bylaw. And the determination of Council as to the giving of further notice is final and not subject to the review in any court, no matter the extent of the change made in the proposed bylaw. Thank you. And comments and notices from the clerk. Mr. Eckensweiler, please.
Thank you, Mayor Eccles, and through you. Notice of this public meeting was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. Anyone wishing to provide verbal comments at this public meeting is asked to sign the sign-in sheet located on the podium. The personal information collected at this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Planning Act. The information collected will be used to complete the zoning bylaw amendment process and will form part of the public record. Questions about this collection should be addressed to me, the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Grey and the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the Municipality of West Grey, care of the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk.
Thank you, Jamie. And next, I'd like to hear from the planning. Mr. Smith, David.
Mr. Mayor, Council, files at 8/12/2025 for Cross. Ron Davidson is the planning consultant. Ask Ashley to go to page 8 in the PDF, please. Shown on the screen in the council chamber and online is the draft schedule for ZA 12/2025 with a proposed zoning of 82546. Purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to amend the zoning to permit a 93 square meter accessory detached dwelling to be located within a new equestrian / riding arena that is still to be built. Can we go to the next page 2, please? Page 9. This is a blow up of the property itself, giving you a little better understanding of where the various buildings are or proposed to be on the property versus just the zoning that we're taking a look at. The accessory detached dwellings to be located within 92 meters of the principal dwelling on the lot. It's a requirement to be in relatively close proximity within the farm cluster, which is why we get a distance setback. Would require its own septic system, and the 82546 zone would prohibit the creation of a third home or an apartment on the property. So we're basically looking at the principal dwelling and this accessory detached dwelling and through the zoning. Recirculated the application to West Grey Public Works Building and Fire with no concerns. County of Grey was circulated the application. There is no requirement for an environmental impact study to be completed on the property, and MDS calculations are are completed overall. County staff have no concerns with the planning application. Circulated to Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, and they find the application acceptable. There have been no comments received as of May 7th, 2025, when the report was uploaded to the West Grey website, and no comments, public, verbal or written, received since that date also. The term accessory detached dwelling or second detached dwelling and accessory residential unit are used interchangeably in planning, but there is a differentiation in the terms. An accessory residential unit is a term that we use when a residential unit is within the town of Newstead or within the town of Durham and is connected to municipal sewer and water. We use the term accessory detached dwelling out in the countryside where we begin to have our own private well and private septic system. Allows us to differentiate when we're talking about one type of unit or the other type of unit. In this particular case, as I mentioned, this is an ADD, and that's kind of an internal building department, or sorry, planning and building department terminology versus common terminology. But again, helps us understand on one, we have municipal services, and the other one, we need a septic system and a well. Review the application versus the provincial planning statement 2024. In that regard, we find the application does conform and does have is consistent with provincial planning statement. Review the application versus the County of Grey official plan. This lot is currently designated rural and hazard with significant woodlands constraint within 120 meters of the lot. There's no development proposed within the woodlands. The ADD will be located in that portion of the lot designated rural. Section 425 of the county official plan does allow for additional units such as this type proposed, as long as it's within the existing building and farm cluster. Must meet the minimum distance separation requirements. And in this particular case, there's no barns in proximity that are capable of housing livestock, and therefore the MDS is not an issue. As I mentioned, in terms of the significant woodlands, an environmental impact study is not required for that particular constraint. In size, the ADD will be limited to 93 square meters of floor area and to be located within 92 meters of the existing detached dwelling. It will have its own septic system and potable water. There's no environmental concerns, and traffic will not be a problem overall. I do find that the application maintains the general intent purpose of the Grey official plan. In terms of the West Grey zoning bylaw, the property is currently zoned A2 rural. The proposed zoning is A2 546 rural exception. That will permit, again, the ADD with a maximum floor area of 93 to be located within 92 meters of the dwelling as it existed May 20th, 2025. Prohibits an accessory dwelling unit within the new ADD and does permit one additional unit within the existing residential. Overall, we do find that the proposal does represent good planning. We recommend that the Council of West Grey consider the recommendation as provided in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. And guess we'll deal with that's my spot. Any comments from anybody from the public? Ashley, have you got anybody online that's going to make a comment? Please. Mr. Davidson?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Ron Davidson. I'm a planning consultant, and I represent the landowner Laura Cross. I'll be very short because this is a very straightforward application. Allowing for a secondary dwelling within a structure accessory to a principal detached dwelling, and it's something that's strongly promoted by the province because it's a means of providing rental housing. And in some cases, it's free rental housing. If it's quite often if it's a family member. As you heard from David Smith, your planner, this type of housing is permitted by the Grey County official plan as well. I'm confident that this in the future, you won't need a zoning bylaw amendment in West Grey for this once you update your zoning bylaw, because in all other rural municipalities in Grey County, we wouldn't need a zoning bylaw amendment. I'm fairly confident in saying that for another reason as well. Back in 2020, just when I was leaving West Grey as the planner, I did write a brand new comprehensive zoning bylaw which allowed for this type of use, again, without a zoning bylaw amendment, but that project was placed on hold at that time. And then from a land use compatibility perspective, including a small residence within a second structure should have no impact at all on the neighbor's use and enjoyment of their own property. So in my mind, as a professional planner, it represents sound land use planning. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Ron. Anyone else? Ashley? No? Any members in the audience have any comments on this? Council? Committee? This isn't council, this is committee. Get myself switched over. This is council. We had council this morning, Jamie. This is council. Yes, it is all of council. Yeah. Some things stay the same. Councillor Hutchison, comment.
No, I'd like to move the recommendation, though.
Thank you very much, sir. Seconder. Deputy Mayor Hutchison. Very good. Any further questions, comments on the motion? Seeing none, call the question. All those that are in favor? Raise your hand. Any that are opposed? I'll declare that carried. Thank you very much. And that's it. Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Down to number 4. I believe that's where we are. Number 4, zoning amendment ZA 14, 2025, 033165, Gray Road 28. We'll declare the meeting open for this portion of it. Ashley, can you express how anybody wants to join participation, please?
Members of the public joining virtually wishing to participate in this portion of the meeting may do so in one of 2 ways. If you have joined via phone, press *9 to raise your hand. This will let us know that you would like to speak. Alternatively, *9 can also be used to lower your hand. If you have joined virtually, you can either raise your hand by clicking either the blue or yellow hand icon located in the bottom corner of your screen, or by sending a chat message to West Grey Communications, either stating that you would like to speak or what you would like read into the record on your behalf.
Thank you, Ms. Noble. I have a few mandatory announcements to make. I would like to remind everyone that the purpose of this public meeting is to receive input from the public. Every person who attends a statutory public meeting required under the Planning Act shall be given an opportunity to make representation in respect of the proposed bylaw. All submission materials for this application are available at the West Grey Municipal Office during regular business hours. This meeting is an essential part of the decision-making process. Feedback received will be considered in the decision of the West Grey Council. An explanation of how the public and agency comments factored into this decision will be included in the notice of passing of the bylaw. Were changes made in the proposed bylaw after the holding of a public meeting, council will determine if any further notice will be given respecting the proposed bylaw, and the determination of council as to the giving of further notice is final and not subject to review in any court, no matter the extent or changes made in the proposed bylaw. Thank you. And now I'll ask Clerk Eckensweiler, you have some comments, mandatory.
Thank you, Mayor Eccles. Notice of this public meeting was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. Anyone wishing to provide verbal comments at this public meeting is asked to sign the sign-in sheet located on the podium. The personal information collected at this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Planning Act. The information collected will be used to complete the zoning bylaw amendment process and will form part of the public record. Questions about this collection should be addressed to me, the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Grey and the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the Municipality of West Grey, care of the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk.
Thank you very much, Jamie. That brings us down to report from the Planning and Development Committee. And Mr. Smith.
Mr. Mayor, Council files ZA 14, 2025 for Schwartz. Purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to amend the zoning to permit an existing 66.9 square meter accessory detached dwelling to be located within 105 meters of the primary dwelling on the lot. Ashley, if you go to page 22 of the PDF, please. Shown on the screen in the council chambers and online is a bit of a messy draft zoning schedule for the property. The building that we're talking about was in the area to be zoned NE 547. That's the actual ADD itself. The rest of the property has a whole mixture of different zones on it that have to be amended as we go through this particular process. The house that we're talking about that would be accessory to is kind of in the little white circle up there in the area to be zone A1-XX, just sitting beside the natural environment zone. The ADD is actually in the natural, will be within the new natural environment zone. It's been there for many years, though. Excuse me. Can we go to the next page? Sorry, Ashley, page 23. This gives you the aerial photo. Little red box is where the ADD is. You can see the laneway going back to the house itself, a little bit back further onto the property itself. In this particular case, the building's a little bit bigger and a little bit further away than the previous file that we just heard overall. The property is designated a mixture of agricultural, rural, hazard, and future secondary plan area. We're just outside, they're sitting on the boundary of the town of Hanover. And this area here is under a special County of Grey secondary plan designation. It's got a lot of different designations on it, but the ones that they were most concerned about here is the hazard overall, the future secondary plan area designation. All the rest of it have no bearing overall on the application. It does have and a natural heritage system linkage. Significant portions of the property are within the Saugeen Valley Conservation Regulated Area. The current county official plan mapping and our West Grey zoning mapping do not reflect the boundaries of the SVCA regulated area. They're not in some respects even close in this particular case. If the county and West Grey mapping were correct, the ADD would be located on lands designated hazard and natural environment if the mapping were correct. It's been there again for many years, and the mapping is just kind of continues to catch up. The application was circulated to the SVCA. They do find the application to be acceptable considering the building's been again there for many years. The new NE 547 zone would recognize the ADD as it existed on May 20th of this year. The new A1 548 and A2 548 zones would permit an additional residential unit within the provincial principal dwelling. The Grey County ecologist, the opinion and environmental impact study is not required. And for councils or committees information, the zoning application for a garden suite was approved by West Grey Council in 2020. That bylaw was appealed to the LPAT, the Land Planning Appeal Tribunal, and LPAT allowed the appeal, which means that they struck down the bylaw that was passed in 2020 for a garden suite. And I'll talk about that in a bit. Zoning bylaw amendments application ZA10 2018 for Alicia and David Schwartz proposed that a garden suite in the form of an older dwelling be permitted on the lot in addition to a new dwelling that had been built at that time. ZA10 18 and the current application are the same, excepting that the older dwelling is proposed as a permanent dwelling, not this time, not as a garden suite. In July 2018, West Grey Council passed bylaw 84-2018, approving a zoning amendment based on the recommendation of the West Grey planner and no concerns identified by any of the commenting agencies. The bylaw, West Grey zoning bylaw, was appealed to the LPAT by a neighboring property owner. And the LPAT allowed the appeal in May 2020, striking down the bylaw. And really because of the definition of a garden suite that was used at that time, which required for the building to be portable. This building is definitely not portable and wasn't portable at the time, so therefore it didn't meet the legislative requirements that it be portable for a garden suite. Since that time, the province has changed the rules allowing for additional dwelling units on properties. So the application is identical in the sense of the buildings, but different in the sense that we're now looking at a building that is potentially allowable under the Provincial Planning Act and the Provincial Planning Statement. We circulated the application to West Grey Public Works and Building and Fire. There have been no concerns. West Grey Building has noted that the property record doesn't have a record of the septic system for the older dwelling, and that's not unusual considering its age. The County of Grey has indicated an environmental impact study can be waived and MDS calculations are to be provided, but overall they have no concerns with the application. Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, the NE zone does not appear to be to properly identify the natural hazard features on the property. based on the site plan submitted with the application, location of the older dwelling is within the natural environment zone. It is recommended the OP and zoning mapping be updated with the hazard features as shown in their SVCA's enclosed map. Proposed application is considered acceptable to SVCA staff. There have been no comments received as of May 7th, 2025, when the application was uploaded to the West Quay planning site. We received no verbal or written comments since that date. As I mentioned before, an accessory detached dwelling unit, this particular case is one that's going to have its own septic system or well, or connected to an existing septic system or well. We reviewed the application versus the provincial planning statement of October 2024. Again, the lot is designated a whole number of different designations: hazard, agriculture, rural, and special policy in the County of Grey official plan. The ADD will be located on lands that are subject to the SVCA regulated area policies. The lands would be considered hazard and / natural environment. The current county official plan designation on the property is agriculture, however, and is not hazard. That current policy does allow for the ADD to come into place. So it's kind of a little cart and horse problem. Okay, it's supposed to be hazard, but it's designated agriculture. Agriculture provides for an ADD. The building's also been there for many years. It was constructed and probably is a legal non-conforming use in that regard. And therefore, we took a look at the application in relationship to the agricultural policies that are existing on the property as of today, and they are permitted. There are no livestock facilities within 750 meters, and therefore the MDS is not an issue in this particular case. And as I said, it's probably been on the lot since approximately 1920. And there's no indication at all that it doesn't have a legal non-conforming status. Sewage disposal, it doesn't need a septic system or approval of a septic system. And it would be in proximity to the principal dwelling on the lot. We don't take a look exactly at, for a number, as in it needs to be below 100 or below 90. So in this particular case, it's about 105. Again, as an existing building, it's not going anywhere else, and it'll be the only accessory dwelling on the property outside of the main house. Overall, we do find that the application does have a conform to the county official plan, provided that we do update the policies and the mapping to meet the match the county, and at some point in time, the county will match the SVCA when they come along to it at that point in time. In terms of the West Grey zoning bylaw, we have an A1 agriculture, an A2 rural on the property, and NE natural environment. Again, we're going to be updating the natural environment mapping and the A1 and A2 zoning mapping in order to match the Conservation Authority regulated area mapping. The NE 547 zone will permit the ADD for a maximum floor area of 66.9 square meters within 105 meters of the principal dwelling as it existed on May 20, 2025. And overall, we do find that the zoning amendment represents good planning. We recommend that West Grey Council consider the passage of the bylaws proposed in the planning report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Is there any comments from the applicant? Anybody online, Ms. Noble? Nope. Okay. Don't really see anybody else from the public here to make comments on this. Council, how do you want to deal with this? Doug? Councillor Townsend?
I would move the recommendation as presented in the report by the planner.
Very good. All right. Seconded by Councillor Forrester. Any further comments? Questions? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Declare that carried. It's been an arduous process to keep that house there. Thank you. All right. Yeah. Sorry, we're down to the next one then. And I shall declare the public meeting open for ZA 27-2024, 231764 concession 2 west of the Garifraxa Road. And Ashley, I'll ask you to give any instructions on anybody that's joining virtually this afternoon.
Members of the public joining virtually wishing to participate in this portion of the meeting may do so in one of two ways. If you have joined via phone, press star 9 to raise your hand. This will let us know that you would like to speak. Alternatively, star 9 can also be used to lower your hand. If you have joined virtually, you can either raise your hand by clicking either the blue or yellow hand icon located in the bottom corner of your screen, or by sending a chat message to West Grey Communications, either stating that you would like to speak or what you would like read into the record on your behalf.
Thank you very much, Ms. Noble. I have some prescribed instructions I must read. I would like to remind everyone that the purpose of this public meeting is to receive input from the public. Every person who attends a statutory public meeting required under the Planning Act shall be given an opportunity to make representation in respect of the proposed bylaw. All submission materials for this application are available at the West Grey Municipal Office during regular business hours. This meeting is an essential part of the decision-making process. Feedback will be considered in the decision of West Grey Council. An explanation of how the public and agency comments factored into the decision will be included in the notice for the passing of the bylaw. Were changes made in the proposed bylaw after holding of a public meeting, council will determine if any further notice will be given in respect to the proposed bylaw, and the determination of council as to giving of further notice is final and not subject to review in any court, no matter the extent of the change made in the proposed bylaw. Thank you. And Mr. Eckensweiler, clerk has some comments.
Thank you, Mayor Eccleston. Through you, notice of this public meeting was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. Anyone wishing to provide verbal comments at this public meeting is asked to sign the sign-in sheet located on this podium. The personal information collected at this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Planning Act. The information collected will be used to complete the zoning bylaw amendment process and will form part of the public record. Questions about this collection should be addressed to me, the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Grey on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the Municipality of West Grey, care of the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk.
Thank you, Jamie. Overview from the Planning and Development. Manager Smith. David?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Report ZA 27-2024, McDonald, represented by IPS Planning. Purpose of the application is to zone the property to satisfy the condition of provisional consent file B01-2025, which was heard by West Grey Committee of Adjustment earlier this year. Provisional consent B01-2025 proposed the creation of a new lot, approximately 20 hectares for an existing residence and accessory buildings, and retain a lot approximately 33.68 hectares for an existing campground. I'll ask Ashley, we go to page 36, please. Shown on screen in the council chambers and online is the draft zoning schedule showing, excuse me, kind of two parts. One, the Chemanon campground itself, kind of the red outline on the mapping with a revised OS 114 and a revised NE 114. And to the left or north of the Chemanon in green and brown, a natural environment zone and an A2-XX rural with exception zone on the property. The red property represents the one severance for the Chemanon, and the green area and a little bit of brown areas, the other severance representing the house and the accessory buildings going along with it. Property is, as I mentioned, operated as a Chemanon RV resort. The property is designated rural land use and hazard in the County of Grey official plan with an aggregate resource area, significant woodlands and other wetlands constraints. Grey County Planning Ecologist is the opinion of environmental impact assessment studies not required. Significant portions of the property are within the SVC regulated area. The property is currently zoned at OS 114 open space exception and NE 114 natural environment exception. The OS 114 and NE 114 zoning on the residential lot will be replaced with an appropriate A2 rural exception and natural environment zoning. The OS 114 on the campground lot will be amended to remove one of 3 permitted residential dwellings. The NE 114 zoning on the campground lot would also be amended to remove the potential for additional campsite development in the NE natural environment area. And it's also recommended the property operating a Chaminade RV resort be subject to site plan control. In terms of the residential lot, there's an existing house, lot, cabin, garage, shed, and other buildings on the residential lot. That's going to be approximately 20 hectares in size, and the existing tent and trailer campground plus associated buildings and structures on the campground lot of 33.68 hectares. Circulated the application to various agencies, including West Gray Public Works, Building and Fire, with no concerns. County of Gray has no concerns. Environmental impact study can be waived. Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority find the application to be acceptable overall. And they do recommend that the zoning on the retained lot, the campground lot, include language that the existing trailer park site plan be prohibited from expanding until the floodplain limit on the property has been delineated, until safe access to concession to West WTR is demonstrated. There have been no public comments submitted as of May 7th, 2025, when the report was uploaded. However, we have received one written comment dated May 20th today. I'll summarize the letter. I have the following concerns regarding the application. The original planning justification report dated November 2024 suggested to be a 13-acre severance. It's now a 50-acre severance. That was done because of potential problems with the County of Gray official plan in terms of aggregate requiring a minimum lot area in an aggregate of 20, which is why we ended up with the funky lot sizes and boundaries in order to meet the county's requirement, or at the same time trying to keep as much land with the campground at the same time meeting the county's minimum requirement for a lot within the aggregate area. So yes, the application did change from 13 up to 50. The letter goes on to say they didn't provide any justification for going from 13 to 50. I don't require justification when an application in some respects is consistent with the overall policies of the Gray County official plan in that regard. The proposed lot significantly reduces the size of the RV park and will limit the use, will limit its use of forested area at a time when the provincial planning statement is calling for the promotion of natural areas for recreational purposes. Mr. McDonald, which is the owner of the property, gives no reason for this severance, even though the buildings already exist and there is to be no further developments. Review the application versus the provincial planning statement 2024. Review policies 261 in terms of recreational uses in rural areas, and regarded in terms of policy 415 natural heritage features, policy 455 mineral aggregate resources, and 52 natural hazards. Overall, we do find that the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement as proposed. In terms of the West Gray official plan, the lot is designated rural and hazard land. There is no development proposed within the hazard land. The entirety of the lot is within the aggregate resources area. Section 5228 of the official plan states that lot creation of less than 20 hectares will not be permitted. Therefore, we have a minimum lot on one side of 20 and the remainder being the other side for the campground. An environmental impact study, as I mentioned, is not required, and overall, the application does maintain the general intent and purpose of the Gray official plan. In terms of the West Gray zoning bylaw, again, we have an OS 114 open space exception and an NE 114 natural environment zone exception. The current OS and NE zones do permit a tent and trailer park comprised of a maximum of 250 sites with 3 detached dwelling units. The current zoning is just blanket. It doesn't say, by the way, you can only have 2 campsites in the natural environment. It just combines the OS 114 and the NE 114 into one blanket for 250. Probably shouldn't be done that way. There should be limited development in the natural environment zone because of the flooding hazards. So going forward with the bylaw, that's what we will be proposing to you. In terms of the residential lot, we'd be zoned A2534. Residential lot will be solely for detached dwelling, accessory buildings and structures. The only difference in this from the current bylaw is in terms of lot frontage of 30.5 minimum, 61 minimum proposed, and it requires 122. The reduction is still in keeping with our reduced lot area frontages within the A2 of 30.5. So the reduction may sound like a large number, but it's not an issue overall, considering the bylaw does take a look at lots of this nature being allowed to be at 30.5 after they're created. In terms of the campground lot, we are proposing a revision to the OS zone that would permit only 235 sites within the OS and only 2 detached dwellings instead of 3. And on the proposed NE 114, a maximum of 15 sites as they existed on May 20, 2024. Between the 15 sites in the NE and the 235 sites in the OS, they're still allowed their 250 sites overall. It's my understanding there isn't 250 sites there at this present time. As one of the permitted 3 dwellings is being severed off, we're recommending a reduction from 3 to 2 permanent dwellings. And overall, we don't have any problems with the proposed lot area or frontage. Overall, in the opinion, the zoning amendment does represent good planning. In terms of site plan control of the Chamadon RV Resort, West Gray has little oversight on the property to ensure that it continues to develop and evolve in a manner that is in keeping with the intent of the Gray County official plan for natural heritage and natural hazard areas and for campgrounds in general. A campground typically would not require any building permits if it wished to create a new campsite or multiple campsites. As I mentioned, we don't have 250 campsites there at the moment. It would be good to have some oversight in regards to that. I do recommend that it is, in my opinion, that placing Chamadon RV Resort under site plan control would represent good planning. It's my recommendation that West Gray Council consider the application and the recommendations provided in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. I'm going to ask if there's any comments from the applicant. Anybody online, Ashley? Please.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, my name's Daphne Goxon. I'm the representative for the applicant. I don't think anything needs to be added to what David presented, but if you have any questions, you can please let me know.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for joining us. Does council want to proceed? Any questions? Excuse me, Councillor Hutchison. Doug, go ahead.
Just a couple of questions. One on the site plan control. So we're going to put a site plan control on this campground. Do we have site plan controls on other campgrounds, and how does that? Is it something we should be doing? Does it only get triggered when they come to planning to make some changes? How are we juggling that?
I can't tell you actually when we have site plan control on other campgrounds in West Gray. We don't have a great tracking record of some of the site plan, and some of it's carried in corporate memory rather than not. The West Gray bylaw for campgrounds is quite short in many respects in terms of campsite sizes and other amenities that come along with with development. We were trying to find a balance between natural heritage, enjoyment of property, enjoyment of experience, not cramming them all together in some respects. And therefore the site plan control, even though we don't have a minimum campsite size or things like that, would help us understand a better expansion to road layouts, to washroom facilities, to some of the recreation facilities, if there's volleyball courts, to other things that come along with campgrounds, such as maybe a amphitheater, camp stores, or things like that. It's a go forward process in terms of Chamadon, that any building permits or things like that, or development that would trigger it coming forward. It's at that point in time, we would have to get a better inventory of kind of what's there, what its layout, and where we're going in terms of its expansion, in terms of, again, tree cutting, natural heritage issues, things like that overall.
Okay, further.
Yeah, and the other part about the to delineate the floodplain limit and to demonstrate safe access, a water resource engineer would need to undertake a floodplain study. So what is that all about in terms of making sure that they don't put campsites in vulnerable areas, or what is that?
In general, yes. We do see the floodplain more so on our permanent than we do on our campgrounds or other things. It's a two-sided issue. One is, with housing and with anything else like that, it's a loss of building structures and so on and so forth and value, right? So putting things in the floodplain or places where it may get flooded out isn't a great idea. There's typically more leeway with recreational than there is obviously with housing. The second thing, of course, is anything that we put in the floodplain has a potential for a pollution problem and so on and so forth when we do put things in, everything from propane cylinders and some septic and all the rest of it to go along with campsites in a floodplain. That is a bit of a concern. The last one is when we have flooding and if the flooding is a quick response or happens quickly, is the ability for people to leave safely. And considering their trailers, but whether or not people are trying to get their trailers out rather than seeing them flooded too. So the safe access is more so on the personal side than the asset side, if you know what I mean, to make sure that people can get out. Whether or not, I think what you're seeing from the Conservation Authority is the high end of things that we have certainly applied to residential situations. But we'll see where it comes in terms of their regulation, because they also have a regulated area here in relationship to expansion of the campground. So.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? We proceed. Recommendation is there. Deputy Mayor Hutchison.
Yes, I'll move the recommendation, sir.
Okay. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Hutchison. Any comments on the motion? Call the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. That's the decision. That is all that we have on the agenda for today. Amy, yes? Then with all business completed, I will say we're adjourned. Thank you very